Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Goalie Interference. The one and only Mike McKenna from Daily Faceoff is here, as he always is, for Goalie Interference presented by the Jimerson Law Firm. I'll get my Jimerson Law Firm in read later, but you are a hungry man, I've been told right now. You explain.
Oh, man, I tell you what. I'm a subscriber to Bon Appetit magazine, and they rarely lead me down the wrong path. Well, that happened tonight. I made a Senegalese, which is a West African country, I believe, Senegal, rice dish. And so my geography is going. I think Le Senegal is actually, well, it's French-speaking at one point.
They are French-speaking, yes.
Thank you. Well, this dish was terrible. And I think the ratios in the recipe...
I need to know how you landed on this. Like, how are you flipping? Is this a book or this is a magazine or they email you?
Magazine. I still subscribe
and you're flipping through and you're like, you know what I want? I want something from West Africa. Like, where did that?
Well, it looked delicious. All the ingredients in it. I mean, it was all the stuff I like. And I thought, okay, I want some tamarind paste. I'll go to the Pan Asia market. I'll get me some tamarind paste. I got fish sauce. I've got peanut butter. Let's get after this. Okra, eggplant, lamb. I'm all in. Tomato paste. Well, I think the ratios were off in this thing because it called for a cup of peanut butter, and that was clearly too much because this thing was inedible. And I'm telling you, man, like, I didn't think there was hope on this thing about midway through because you're supposed to cook the rice like in the broth with the peanut butter, and it didn't work. It's not how this works. You need moisture to cook rice. And so, listen, I'm comfortable saying at this point, if I have a recipe, I don't screw up. Okay. It doesn't happen. I know what I'm doing.
Like line chef extraordinaire.
I can confidently say that this recipe was off. And
something's wrong.
Because I just tossed the whole thing. And I never toss food. Like usually I'll choke down anything I make. And this one, I was so mad at it that I was just like, get it out of here. I can't do this. So,
I believe there is such thing as too much peanut butter. I think peanut butter is very overpowering. You have to be very careful, especially in a savory dish. You want the peanut flavor, but you can't go full on peanut butter. And in rice, that's weird to me.
It was a lot. And I'm glad that episode's over. I'll never try to make that again. And I had a frozen pizza. So
Did it call for a crispy bottom? I love a crispy bottom on a rice dish.
It did not, because it was supposed to be almost like a porridge or a risotto. And I think I think one, it had too much peanut butter, way too much pepper as well. Called for 2 tablespoons worth of fresh ground pepper. That's a massive amount of fresh ground pepper. And also, called for jasmine rice, which is totally normal, but the rice either needed to be cooked in advance or needed a longer cook time, or there wasn't enough broth. Like, it just was a mess. So somebody just chimed in. Are you a fan of mole chicken? Absolutely. I'm a huge fan. I actually had mole chicken this week. Pollo. What is it? Pollo e chorizo. I don't know. I speak Je parle français, not Spanish, but
no, I don't speak French.
Let's talk some hockey. All right. My food sucked tonight. Let's talk. Let's cheer up here. The Golden Knights.
Yes.
3 points in 2 games.
They played great against Washington. They played okay against Carolina. I mean, I think you were a little bit fortunate in, being able to get that point. Now, I'm writing about that tomorrow, kind of their ability to suck these points out of games. It's a good thing, but it also is a bit of a concern. It's like, well, I don't know how that's going to look later down the road, but I think I'll start with the Washington game. And I guess you could kind of throw both of them in together. I think there was definitely a focus on defending going into this road trip. I don't think this is just noise that they're saying. I think it's been very clear. And to me, what that has done is it's made both goalies good, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, you look at the stats and you see 34 shots against in the game against Washington. And you'd think, oh man, they gave up another great night. And I tell you what, Robin Lehner made some big saves at key times. Okay. I mean, the kill, and, even like Dowd right off the bat, clean break. And then each period, second period and third period, I think he had Eller down the wing on a 2-on-1 with 3 minutes left in the second,
Yep. Yep.
and then a huge save on Sheary real late in the third. And like those were big, man. Like you can't underscore the fact that you can make 30 normal saves, but if you miss any of those, it's a different game. So we were talking last week about how we thought we'd love to see Leonard have a big game,
Yep.
shut out. Well,
Yep.
this was it. I mean, he looked dominant. And I thought that, everything about his game was just decisive and more at the top of the crease. He only got caught deep once or twice. It was really good. And the team was better in front of him. They gave up less odd man rushes. They were better on they packed the middle a little more. Like I was impressed with what I saw in the condensed game that I was able to watch because NHL Network blacked me out on the first nights.
I know. I went to write an article about the game, and I was going to pull some clips. There's one of Amadio back checking. I was all excited to pull, and the game's it's not there. Like it doesn't exist.
Can we Amadio? He's doing an awesome job, man.
Yeah, it's been good.
I've been legitimately very impressed with Howden and Amadio, particularly, and we've also noticed Nolan Patrick. And it's not just because he went for a sick dangle between the legs back, but he's actually getting to the front of the net. You're hearing his name and the puck is there. So, I mean, that's encouraging. Who would have thought Michael Amadio was going to play a part? So,
yeah, I mean, yeah. I actually had that on the rundown for a little bit of kind of going through some of these guys towards the bottom and kind of ranking where they're going to be. But I decided we don't, it's too, they're very close. Is Amadio better than Howden? Is Patrick better? I mean, I for one, as ridiculous as this is gonna sound coming from somebody who can't even skate, I found the dangle kind of ridiculous that we're all going nuts about the goal, because if the goalie didn't get kicked into the goal, which I'm not saying it was goalie interference, I think they got it right. He was pushed in, but if that doesn't happen, he just slid it on the ice. Nothing happened.
I think, pardon me with this time zone difference. To me, it's just the fact this guy made a confident enough play to go backhand between his legs and
okay, I'll give you that.
Again, we've had this a couple times before, right? Where we're talking about Theodore's been our greatest example. Or I've just been happy he chucked one in. Well, Patrick, I'm happy to see him with the confidence to make a play like that in the slot. And
I agree with that. I just think that we don't even really remember it, and I don't even know that we notice the puck going through his legs if what happened should have happened, which is the goalie's not getting kicked into the goal. He just pads it out to the side or even just scoops it up. It might have even looked even worse if he was ready to go. He just scooped it up. It wouldn't have looked very good. I mean, he did that in traffic. The guy's stick is there. It's impressive to get the puck headed towards the goal. But to me, this going nuts about it, it's relax for a little bit. I thought better than the goal. His back checking the last two games, and Howden and Amadio and Carrier in a big way, has been really good. They've been very committed to back checking, which is something they have to do when they're playing teams that they know they're going to have some rush chances against. And they've been very, very good doing that. And I think that's been a huge reason why both Leonard and Brossoit have looked a hell of a lot better these last two games.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, man, Patrick and Howden can really skate, both of them. I mean, I remember, when I was in Syracuse in the AHL, we got Brett Howden for the playoff run out of junior. And I'd played with his brother, Quentin Howden, before previously. And Quentin had always said, yeah, my brother can play. It's wow. Showed up because we got Howden and Anthony Cirelli for that playoff run. And nice. we got Cirelli really late, but you could just see it with these guys. Man, they can motor. But I think it's a good point about the back pressure coming back. It's not just back checking, it's back pressure, because unless it's a clean 2-on-0 or 2-on-1 or a breakaway, the way teams work now, they're always trying to drive middle and create that second wave. And if you don't have players humping back in a hurry, you're going to give up those late opportunities, and you're going to give up lateral passes and options. And that's bitten the Golden Knights at times. That's bitten Rod Leonard at times, right? Puck gets to the middle, gets kicked out to the side, man. And that's not his runway, dude. For him, it is straight on shots. He is, one of the best. And that's where I think that, when you watch that game, you're thinking, okay, it looked like they get it here. Now, Carolina, to me, that game, it looked like they just had they looked tired for the first two periods, which I mean,
Which is fine.
listen, you're playing arguably the best team in the league right now, and you just played the night before against the Washington Capitals, who are no slouch either. So you definitely get a bit of leeway there, but they were getting run out of that building. I mean, and Brossoit was
Yeah,
he was
little bit.
strong, man. And it got to 2-0, and I thought, oh boy,
It's
because
trouble. Yeah.
and it happened pretty quick, and it kind of looked like the heads were going down. And I'm thinking, I don't like the way this is going. And man, they find ways to get through this stuff sometimes. Like they
All
really
year, really.
do.
They don't
Yeah.
get blown out. You really go back through the entirety of the season. There's
No.
one tough one in Toronto, and even that one, like it's not. There hasn't been an 8-1,
No.
6-0 type thing. They just haven't had that. And
excuse me, not like Calgary and St. Louis the other night.
Right,
Oh
right.
man.
And there's been a number of those around the league. Like, and the Golden Knights really haven't done it to a lot of teams either.
Yeah.
There's the one Anaheim game, they kind of stomped them. I don't think the score actually was as representative as what it was. But like, there hasn't been a long period. And I think a lot of that, and especially on this trip, I think the main reason that game did not get out of hand was the style of play that they were attacking that game with. Like, as much as they wanted possession in the offensive zone, I thought they were pretty like conservative in a way compared to how they normally play, in that they knew we have to be able to get back. We cannot be attacking the goal like we do against some of these teams at home and that we've done in the past. And so you very rarely saw anything coming in their direction, except for when the puck would bounce goofily, that's a word, or when you'd get these weird, situations where guys in the wrong place or whatever, they, there's a weird hop or whatever. That's how they were allowing these chances. There was not a lot of defensemen too far forward, and they end up giving up the 2-on-1s. They always had back pressure. They were constantly through the neutral zone with some defense. Like, their biggest issue is they just weren't moving through the neutral zone offensively. But I think my question to you is, like, how much of a focus do you think goes into some of these road games against better teams where they're saying, you know what, we know how we normally play offense, but we have to turn it down a little bit. We've got to take away some of that desire to have dominant possession the entire game and try to make sure that we're defending a little bit better. Because to me, these last two games, that's exactly what's happened. They're not getting as many shots. They're not holding possession as much. And it's feeding directly into how much better they've been defensively.
I think what you're describing is people walking in the locker room and going, boys, we got to play a good road game tonight, which I've always laughed at. But there's kind of more so, Nick, you're not changing your system, but it's more just the mentality that, hey, we're going into the Lions' den. We're playing some pretty good teams here. And I don't think that was as much the case against Washington. I think they just played well, really.
Yeah.
I really do. I think as simple as that, they to a man were pretty damn good against Washington. But the Carolina game was, I think they were ready to rope a dope if they had to, because Carolina is they are the best first period team, and then they lock it down. And Carolina can and will feed on your rush if you give that to, or feed in transition if you give that to them.
And they will do that. They got a little
and they did a bit, but they weren't able to break through like they usually are, because Carolina is so tight in the neutral zone and how they play. It did look like to me the Golden Knights were pretty aware of that. They weren't trying to force when they didn't have to force, and they did let the game come to them a little bit, which is pretty gutsy considering you're down 2-0 on the road like that.
And in a way, rare for how they play. That's not usually how they play, at least not this year.
It's not. And I mean, I thought Brossoit was really good. And you always feel bad when you lose in overtime, but and I still don't really know how Haig's goal went in. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Like, it's just toss it at the net. He did. He just straight up missed it. But like, man, it just started to look like they started to get that mojo back again. And I mean, Nick Waugh and OT, dude, like, when he's going in, I'm like, this is it. And then Freddie Anderson gets it. And it's just like, this would have been a classic comeback game for them. And this was one, though, that I looked at. I really thought they'd walk out of there thinking, all right,
buzzsaw.
This was a good point for us, though. No matter, because everybody in that locker room everybody in that room felt it after the first or in the first. You can guarantee it. Like, they just look tired, and you know that, you sense that when you're playing. And that's when you'd realize, man, we're a bit tired. We don't have our legs. We got to be careful with this puck. We got to be smart with the puck. And good teams can do that. And it helps when Mark Stone's in the lineup. It helps that Nick Hague was back as well. But yeah, I've been encouraged by this road. It's funny, man.
Yeah.
They've been so good on the road this year.
I told you.
You did, dude. You called it. Like they're probably going to rip off 2 more wins.
Like I wasn't sure which games they were going to win and how it was going to go. I had a feeling they were going to have a little bit more commitment to defending, and it's not like guys suddenly care that they want to defend or the effort levels higher or anything of that. I'm not even sure how to put words on it other than like, I think they knew coming into this, we're shorthanded in regards to which players we have. We did not play very well for the past 7, 8, 9 games, whatever it is at home. If we don't play good hockey, fundamental, solid hockey here, we're going to get our asses kicked 4 times in a row. And I think they pretty well knew that going in. And to me, when they play that style of game, usually it's when they feel they're an underdog. Colorado series last year is a good example. The game after the Tahoe game is probably one of the best examples where they're like, you know what? This team's good. We have to play the right style of game and everything else will take care of itself. When they do that, they find ways. They either don't allow many chances at all, which is what they did against Washington, or even when they go behind, as long as they stay committed to it, they're so damn consistent defensively when they're playing that way that even a great team isn't going to score that much. And then when they play that way, both goalies fit that system. They fit the system where you are having 4 guys back and there's very rarely rush chances and you are in a way conservative in your own end. They weren't pressuring in the defensive end like they normally do when they were playing Carolina, and really not at all against Washington. They just let them happen. Let's keep them to the outside and we'll make things happen. And that's exactly what I thought we were going to see, and it's great to see it. And now the question is, moving forward, do they get too high in their britches here of saying, well, we're getting back Pacioretty, we're getting back Martinez, we had Hague back, now we're going to just go for it against Florida? I don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, it's hard to predict, if you're getting people. But I think you made a good point about how they do play better when they start to amp it up a bit. Like, I mean, Montreal, they end up getting a point out of that. Montembeault held them in, but it's still like, that's a team you should have clobbered,
Right.
Yeah, like, how'd you guys give up 3 here?
They play like almost an arrogant game. Like, it's almost arrogant. And we've seen it in the past in the playoffs. Like, they've done this to other teams. Minnesota's a great example. They had that 3-1 lead. They played arrogant. They gave it up.
When you look at how they played in Carolina, really when they got in trouble was mostly in zone when the wires got crossed, right? Yep. I mean, when McNabb and Coughlin are out together on one of the goals, and I think it was, whose would that have been? I'm going to look and make sure I got the right one, but it was attacking the net. I think it might have even been Aho's, the second goal. They just got their wires crossed and both went to 2 different guys, and then they left the front of the net open. And that's the communication factor that still worries me, because the system is, it's man on man. It's aggressive. Like, you have to talk. And that's like with Coughlin, I get worried about that because my impression is he's not a vocal player. That's just my impression from watching things, and not very aware. Like, you have to talk to your teammates. And that's something I think that I know Hague is actually very good at. And that's something that Hague and Whitecloud brought to the table when they came up. Like, as a pair, they had their communication down, no problem. And it's only going to improve when Martinez, well, hopefully whenever he comes back, but
hopefully tomorrow.
I hope. Like, the poor guy's been out for so long, but
Foley
that all matters.
He was ready to go, and then COVID hit him, and then they talk about conditioning, and now we're, what are we, over a week from that Foley interview? So, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Eichel could be ready next week or in a month and a half. So,
I mean, that one seems like we're probably. I mean, he said on that podcast with Chris Weidman that he's going to be ready for contact 12 weeks post-op. That's February 4th. I would imagine they'll probably wait until the practice after the break. Yeah. So you're probably looking for that Monday where they practice and travel Then they go to the back-to-back. He's not playing in either of those two. I think it's going to take a little bit where they got to really feel comfortable for it. But like as far as Martinez and Pacioretty, it was pretty clear they thought both could potentially play on this trip. Even if they don't, you have the Buffalo game on the other side of it, and then the break. I think they're both going to that back-to-back and playing in that back-to-back. So I don't think we're all that far off. But but before I make my next point, which is about them getting players back, and I'm not necessarily sure that's going to keep the way they're playing, and I'm a little concerned that they're going to go back to the other way. That is, I need to tell you that goalie interference is brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. Winning has been very good on the road. They haven't lost a game in regulation on the road for like 2 months now. That's been good. But here's what I'm trying to say. One of the issues the Golden Knights have is they like to feed opposing teams' rush by trying to do too much in the offensive zone. They're a very possession-reliant team in the offensive zone, and they very much like to kind of attack keeping the puck in the zone. So what I mean by that is, as much as most teams attack the goal, they're willing to go above and beyond to make sure we keep this possession alive. And often it leads to opportunities going the other way. As you get players back, as you get players who are more creative and better players back, I think you get more confidence that you can do that more and more. And what I think is inevitably going to happen is we're going to see them go right back to not being as good of a defensive team. That's what I expect to happen. And I didn't mute you for the sponsor. You just stopped talking.
I was talking along as you went to the Jim Jimerson Law Firm, who's brought to me because I know the ad read.
You know the read.
That's all it was.
But
I appreciate that people are paying attention. That's very cool. So, I don't really share the same concern, honestly. I think getting these guys back is going to be, it's just going to be good for them in general. But I mean, it is the way they play, like when you're forcing down the wall, when you're trying to move the puck around the top, like you run the risk of these turnovers at times.
You're wide. You have players wide and the middle of the ice is open.
Right. You see that. And a good read here or there and a turnover, and here they come. And poor Petro's fallen down, or just blown it once in each of the last 2 games. Yeah.
I don't think it was that bad last night. I know the turnover,
but it just
it wasn't that bad.
It's I saw it for a long time in St. Louis. Everybody's prone to it, but every once in a while he'll just throw an absolute pizza, and and I always think dude, you're literally one of the best D on earth. How does your brain turn off for a second that? But I mean, I could think of my career where I've done that exact same stuff, man. We all do, but it's just funny because you think you should just be perfect there, but
I mean, I couldn't believe game 1 of the playoffs last year he did it.
I mean, I don't know why he was trying to pass to Will Carrier coming back into the zone. I would never give Will, honestly, 3-on-3. I know Pete DeBoer is trying to reward the players that have had a good game and all that, but oh man, Will Carrier, I love you, dude, but just take a seat in OT. It's probably not who I'd be putting out there.
It is what it is. He was playing well. I get why they're doing it, but
yeah. And it's funny, before OT, there was a shot of Pete on the bench, and he was laughing, and I was like, man, this is a side of Pete DeBoer you don't see that often. It was almost like he was giddy that they ended up getting a point, and I don't know what he was laughing about. I really don't, but it was kind of refreshing to see that.
Yeah,
because he is really, really intense, but he's got a human side. Everybody does. And yeah, I just super quick before you go to the next thing, I forgot about one thing. If Matthias Janmark scored that breakaway last night against Carolina,
when was that one?
I thought that was a different game. Or was that which one was it? I got it in my notes here.
I'm trying to remember which breakaway this was.
Janmark had it against Freddie Anderson, and he didn't lift it. He ended up trying to go around the side of the net.
Right. Real goofy play, and Freddie Anderson went to attack the puck and then decided, I'm not going to do that. That's what we're talking about.
I think that was second period.
Yeah.
And that was the one I felt like, man, if he would have scored this, I felt like they would have won the thing in regulation.
Maybe.
And that was, yeah. So anyway, that was just my quick point there. It's like just another
I guess
moment where
the reason why I have this level of concern is because I'm convinced, and maybe I end up being wrong. Maybe Eichel changes this, and
yeah,
we will
Cody
see down
C's
the
got
road.
it there. Carolina 4-minute mark PK. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I am convinced that the only way this team wins the Stanley Cup is if they're defense first. They cannot be a 4 to
That's
3
true.
game. I think they have to play defense first. And through 41 games, defense was an afterthought basically the entire time. Now, I know they're missing players the entirety of the way, but that has become kind of the style of game that they want to play. And I think that's a huge reason why they haven't gotten elite goaltending performances most of this season, outside of maybe the one where they got a pretty damn good goalie performance out of, I can't think of his name, Logan Thompson. Where, because I think he actually plays a little bit more of an aggressive style of goaltending, and it fit that style. I think Fleury fit that style. They need to go back to the style they played in the bubble that made Leonard have like 67 shutouts in 40 games or whatever it was. Not possible, but you know what I'm saying. He was unbelievable in that, and that's because their focus was defending. As they get players back, as Pacioretty comes back, Martinez comes back, you're going to inevitably feel like we're just better. We're just a better team now. And while they will be better, they will win more games, they will accumulate more huge points. Please stop calling them huge points. That was not a huge point. It was nice to get the point. It is not a huge point.
1 point.
In the shit division.
They're all worth the same.
They don't need any points. The points will happen. They're way too good to not get the points. Stop calling them huge points. It bothers me. But when they get these players back, they're going to start playing better in regards to how they play offense. But I'm afraid it's going to lead to more openings defensively. It's going to lead to a less confident Robin Lehner, and it's going to lead to a style that they're going to feel comfortable in getting because they're going to have 107 huge points when the season's over, win the division by a huge margin, and then suddenly need to turn it on defensively. And if they don't have this style of defense figured out, they're not going to win these games because they're not going to come back in these games. And it's going to be up to Eichel and Stone to be magic in the postseason for 16 consecutive wins. I don't know that that's going to happen. That's why
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, if you're giving up 15 or 20 big time chances a game, or
you will lose.
You're not going to win. Simple as that. Yeah, I mean, and even I thought they were pretty good against Washington, but it was still too much for what I'd like to see,
But that one I can live with because of how many players they're missing. They're missing like $40 million off the cap that game.
But you know what? The teams. Here's my contention with it, though. I've been on teams that when you're missing players, you can still play defense. It's just harder to score. Like defense to me is such a system oriented and such a buy-in thing,
right,
as compared to just trying, like it really is a culture to create with that. And I really have concerns with the way the team plays. Like the teams that are at the pointy end of the league have figured out how to play against the Golden Knights. And that's why they're coming back their throat so fast. It's not tough. Like it's easy to scout and every team knows what you're doing, but like, if you're going to do the same breakout, if you're going to force the walls, if you're only going to come through the neutral zone in two ways, and if chipping to speed is your big game plan, that's great. But like, Carolina shuts down the wall and you're not getting through there.
Yep.
So I have concerns with that.
And then you rely on shots from the point.
And we saw that, and they got a clunker like that, like Howden tucks one at the net, it hits 8 bodies and finds a way, but you can't rely on those. And I just don't think that it's a situation that's going to breed success for the goaltenders, man. Like, especially with, Robin has played. Robin's been okay, really. Like that's what we really have to look past traditional numbers into deeper ones, and it's hard to quantify sometimes. He's been okay, and last night was great. Or 2 nights ago was great.
Yeah.
And so if they can give him some defense, man, they can win. Seriously. Like everything you said. I just am concerned that structurally, can they? Because this happened in San Jose. Like they didn't have Pavelski, but they had puck moving defensemen, They had Carlson and Burns, and well, you've got Petrangelo and Theodore, and bless him, Theodore is absolutely striding around like I haven't seen in a while. But
And you've now plugged in a bigger role for Nick Hague, and I think they've really encouraged Zach Whitecloud to be a lot more of an offensive type guy. I think Martinez becomes that type of a guy when the playoffs come around because they know we need the offense out of this particular player. I think that's where. I don't think they have a bad defense. I don't think they have bad defensive players. I think they have good.
Oh no, they have a very good in terms of who they have as personnel. Big, awesome.
The way that I think it's more the way that they attack and the way that they're so reliant and like focused on keeping possession that it leads to opportunities the other way, even when you have good players on the ice. I don't think the breakdowns in their own end are going to continue happening. If that happens, just cast the season into the sun. They're not winning anything. That they've gotten better with. That you haven't seen nearly as much, other than the occasional Dylan Coughlin's out there. But that I think will get better with him not being out there. Let's bring up Chris, because I think he has a question that's similar to what we've been talking about here. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Mike. Hey, Ken. Hey, yeah, similar because especially on the homestand where they went 3-2. There's a lot of low to high play. Yes. And not much screening of the goalie, and not much fighting of rebounds. When they do it 5-on-5, you're seeing a lot of flybys.
One and done.
If there's a screen, the guy jumps out of the way of the shot just as it's coming there.
Catching it very cleanly, seeing it very easily, and snapping it up. Yeah.
Right. Comparing that, I've watched hockey for quite a long time, fan of the Red Wings as well. Some of the greatest to ever do it, Thomas Holmstrom.
I knew you were going down that path, man.
You can also go Captain Canada for Ryan Smith from the Edmonton Oilers. These guys didn't move, and they let pucks hit them in the shins, puck hit them off the butt, go in. They used to joke for Holmstrom that if you added up the distance of his goals, it wouldn't reach the blue line. He had over 120 power play goals. Same with Ryan Smith. So, and these guys were the deflector rebound specialists. Now, given Nick Lidstrom was one of the best to ever shoot it through the lanes and get it in, he could walk the lane like a master without even looking at the puck and get off a snapshot. So Holmstrom kind of had a little bit of advantage. But is Vegas making a mistake on not doing screens? And because they're not doing it, are they not learning to defend it as well? And are they, or is it something more about the way the game has changed? I'm seeing a lot more guys, a lot more layers of defense trying to block shots, make it harder for those shots to get through. Is the game changed a little bit?
Great questions. And yes, the game has changed. As far as correlating the offense to the defense aspect, if they're practicing it, are they getting worse that way? I bumped my microphone. I don't think there's a correlation with that. But I do think the things that you've hit on are just so important because the Golden Knights typically have not had a great net front presence. And you hear it all the time. We've got to have net front presence. Well, they haven't. And one of the things you talked about getting out of the way is actually funny because there's an art to that. And the art is not to get out of the way before the puck is shot, like you're describing. They'll move out. They're trying to get the tip. When you watch, there's a couple ways to do this. When you watch Joe Pavelski, he's the best in the game right now, sitting in the front of the net, tipping pucks. He stands right in the middle and his stick can go like this. Backhand, forehand, he doesn't move. And then you could turn around and look at not Corey Perry. Look at Dustin Brown in LA. He'd stand in front knowing Drew Doughty was coming down the wing, and he'd tell Doughty, shoot it at me. And as Doughty's shooting, he's moving off to the side and giving that moving screen. And there's an art to that. And there's a certain bravery to that as well. And when I look up and down the Golden Knights lineup, I don't see many people that are good at it. I see people that are willing. I mean, Nick Waugh's willing to stand in front of the net. He will. But he's not good at the timing of it. Mark Stone is actually pretty good at that, but he's more valuable in other places. Like you still have to have a distributor. And that's where I think the Golden Knights are kind of built in a way that really relies on moving the puck quickly, trying to move it around, and then they're not able to, though. Like they're missing that aspect. So
Waugh would be one of my candidates for trying to do it, but reading some articles ahead of this question, I was thinking about it for a day or two. Thomas Holmstrom used to say it's a feel. You got to practice it. You got to know how to tip the puck. So if it's not something Nick Waugh is doing, or maybe a Kolasar, these are guys I'm thinking who could do it. And by the way, also wear some extra pads to help yourselves out that Holmstrom used to. And I think most of it was so his calves would survive the hits from the goalies. But
he's a big dude, man. Yeah.
But these are the guys who could do it, and I'd love to see them do it, and might add that to the game. But so far,
well, you mentioned Lidstrom being so good at walking the line. Theodore is one of the top in the league at that. And
I don't see him shoot into shins so many times.
He does like shooting shins.
I mean, maybe it's the way they're defending differently, but he shoots at the top of the key into someone's shins way too many times.
What they do is because they know the Golden Knights right now, in the way they've been set up, they haven't been able to expose seam passes. So they're going low to high. They're going to the point and wrist it at the net. Well, what do? They flex out towards Shea Theodore because they know he's the guy for it, even though he's that good at it. But it's also where I'd like to see him purposefully shoot wide on occasion, expand the net, like just put it there. Let's be smart about this. Even if you don't have a clear lane, just send it to the net. Create chaos if you have to. It doesn't have to be on net.
But you can't have a flyby when that's happening. Someone's got to be there.
Well, actually, Nick Holden was very good at that. And what would often happen was the guy would be not in front of the goal and would tip the puck in. And they actually were utilizing guys that were nowhere near the goal to score. They had one against Colorado. It was right after they scored. I think it was right after the ass shot from Marcia. So there was the Pacioretty had one from way, way away from the goal that Holden just shot way wide. And I still, to this day, don't know what Grubauer was doing on the shot. But that type of play makes sense. That's just not how they generate offense because they're expecting Theodore to score from those.
What you did say about defending in layers is incredibly true, though. About how, and not just at the point, like you typically have net front, next one on top of that. And that's where, at times the Golden Knights have been boxed into a corner. They turn it over. It's back the other direction. That's why the power play struggled so much, is because of the pressure that teams have put onto the carrier up high as opposed to low. The teams really aren't that worried about the Golden Knights going down low and exposing middle. I mean, that's been what they've been trying to force that with the Donov all year. And I actually think the Donov is more valuable. Flip him around and let him tip pucks, but he hasn't been there as often. So
you don't even try it.
Yeah. It's kind of like he had a ton of goals in Florida like that, man. That guy was picking pucks out of the air left and right. And I've seen it.
Maybe Eichel will change that. Maybe they'll go away from the bumper.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it'll look. I'd imagine they'll stay with their same plan, but I just think that the way they generate offense, especially on the power plays, it's too slow. Like it's got to be faster, and they've got to expose seams. And to do that, you have to get players in motion. There's just too much standing around, and it's the same thing. Like
for 3 years, like when it's not going to happen,
right?
The percentage has gotten better, but it hasn't been a change in plan. It's just been in a regular season. Who cares if you give up a power play?
Yeah, and it just gets better when Pacioretty comes in the lineup. That's basically
it'll tighten up and go cold in the postseason if they're not doing something.
They're going to have the same problem. Unless Eichel completely changes the way that it goes, they're going to have the exact same problem because it's very, very predictable and they're not that good entering.
But you can take lessons from across the league, and one team that you could watch for power play to me is the Rangers. I mean, if you get a chance to watch them, and Chris Kreider's leading the league with 30 goals this year. Yeah. Why is Chris Kreider leading the league? Because he plants his ass right in front of the net. He puts his stick on the ice and he goes to work. And he's got elite puck movers with him. Panarin and Fox and Zibanejad can all snap it around. But the Golden Knights have that same type of talent. It's just that New York moves it so quickly, and Kreider is right there planted with his stick on the ice, not moving. And man, you'd think that they would understand to cover this guy. And they don't. And the Rangers now and some other teams are starting to run these plays from behind the net where they're drawing in defenders, quick play it back out to the front. Kreider's there, bang, it's in. We haven't seen much of that from the Golden Knights. We haven't seen the down low play from
only when Stone's out there, they'll pass it underneath the goal line, and then it's a one-touch pass into the low.
And they're trying to come right back with it. Like there isn't the same willingness to let your creative players go behind the goal line and set up shop for the Golden Knights, as I've seen with other teams, with the Rangers, especially with St. Louis as well.
Pittsburgh. So. When I was watching Pittsburgh, like Crosby was everywhere on that power play, and it's like, well, this is hard to defend. There's guys all over the place.
Yeah, Crosby's also chucking pucks between his feet, backdoor pass. When's the last time we saw a Golden Knights player?
I don't know. I mean,
between his feet on a pass.
Nolan Patrick scored with an unbelievable goal to get them a huge point. Chris, as always, excellent questions.
Well, before we go, just tell Jason Chicago won 8-5 over Detroit tonight. So Fleury led him 5 and stayed in the whole way, but they pulled Nedeljkovic after 4 in Detroit. Nice. They got it within 1 goal every time, but just couldn't get it.
I like Nedeljkovic a lot. I like him. That would have been a fun game to watch.
Tonight.
Two good
he had an offside tonight.
Yeah. Well, thanks. We appreciate it. I'm going to put Jason up real quick here. There it is. There he is.
Hello. Hi there. You're muted.
Your mic is muted. Hang on. I can unmute you. Oh, no. You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I was just saying, scary moment. The Bruins-Colorado game, McKinnon just went to the locker room, blood pouring out of his face. Boy. I don't know. It was a little bit of a I don't want to say cheap hit. It was a tight hit. The stick got in front of McKinnon's face, and you'll see. Yeah,
blade of the stick.
I don't know. It happened so quickly, but they ended up reviewing it, and it was just a 2-minute interference.
Well, okay. So you know what? Real quick, we got one question I want to touch on before you guys take it over again.
Which one is that?
From Easy E. What a name.
What a name.
One of my favorite pictures in the world is Easy E riding a skateboard with a bulletproof vest on. It's hard, dude. It's so hard. Why does Carrier look like the only player that's hustling? Who is carrying this team? I only heard Stevenson and Carrier names called on the broadcast. Because those are the two best Golden Knights players at lugging the puck and having it on their stick for more than a couple seconds. And the difference is
the only players that do that.
The difference too is that Stevenson's the one who can score. And when it's on his blade, you might hear Stevenson goes around the defenseman, goes to the net, forehand, backhand, 5-hole, it's in. And Carrier he drives the net and runs the goalie.
Power
the puck's in the corner. And I'm giving Will a hard time because he's such an awesome player for what he does, but when he was drafted, he was either late first or early second round pick. I think.
That's a good point. Eichel's good at this.
And that's actually, it is a great point. Eichel is a horse with the puck down the wing, man. Dude, I remember playing against him the first time and thinking, I don't know if I can keep up with this guy with my skating. And because he'd make me nervous. He'd be going so fast down the wing that I'm trying to keep up. And if he throws in my feet right now, I'm hooped. And then he'd go around the net and I feel better about it. And he's tall. You don't realize that until you play against him. He's the same way with Matthews. Those are two guys I noticed it immediately. It's Jesus, these guys are big, man. They got a lot of reach. It's no wonder. So, it's Carrier and Stevenson are the two that really do have the puck on the stick for the longest amount of time. And that's why.
For some reason, Stevenson's ability to hold the puck yesterday just evaporated. I don't know what happened. It wasn't his day. I don't know what the hell was going on.
And poor Nick Coughlin. We did have the real Nick Coughlin, or Nick. I went to high school with a kid named Nick Coughlin. I do this all the time, but poor Dylan Coughlin had a he had another Dylan Coughlin moment,
So we recently found an interview in which George McPhee went on Carl Alsner's podcast. I made Jason listen to that because I can only take so much McPhee talking about himself. So I made Jason get his way through that one. And I knew it was
a little smugness, a little bit of smugness.
It was going to be a lot of I drafted you and I did this. And I knew Carl Alsner was going to be very positive towards him. And, so one of the things that, well, first of all, before we get into the defensive thing, you said it in a text to me and it kind of, we then talked about something else. He said he's not, what did he say about being more on the business side and the entertainment side? What was that?
Yeah. So when he first came in, he was supposed to just be the general manager, right? And after getting to know I guess Bill and the flow of the organization, there was a discussion that they wanted George, maybe it was George who actually brought this up, but to get more involved on the business side. And he said that he spent a lot of time building the entertainment, the on-ice entertainment, because there was a thought process that, hey, this team's going to stink, so we have to entertain the fans and the rest of the league. And so he got it really involved in the business side, which I've always wondered, was that too much for a general manager to do? And obviously they made the decision the year after to elevate him and bring Kelly in. But Mike, is that a normal situation where the general manager gets his hands that involved, or was this just sort of an expansion / McPhee trying to maybe build a different role for himself?
It's really hard to say. It's odd to me is what it sounds like. It's hard to kind of wrap my brain around what that means. I can't figure out if it was him being actively involved or more so just being kind of clued in, like in the meetings. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I'm
I
not
know
sure,
for a fact the gold helmets were like his baby.
Yeah, but like this is like I have a ton of respect for George McPhee. I very much enjoy and like George McPhee and speaking with him, and I find it, he's somebody who really loves to control the situation, though. Like that's truthful for him. Like he loves to control it's very in-house, and that's just the way he manages. So in some ways I'm not that surprised, because I think of like Lou Lamoriello in New Jersey ran everything. And it's not that dissimilar. If you're especially for an expansion team, ground floor, and you kind of want to know what's going on with everything. But it does surprise me, right? Like, especially nowadays, like roles are so defined. And that's why there's so many people with different titles. There's not many people that bridge the gap any longer. So like in some ways, when I hear that, it's kind of like, wow, that's a real throwback. But I have to always keep it in my mind that this was an expansion team and things are weird. And things,
but like
the calling card around the NHL, though, when this team came in, was like, man, they're doing it their own way out there. Like that's what we all heard. It was like, man, there are no rules. They are doing this. Even like they're hiring of like athletic trainers. You should have heard this. It's like the athletic trainers are like, they got some guy from Cirque du Soleil who's doing the hiring who doesn't know anything about hockey, and they and like people were all freaked out, and it turned out fine. It was just this different way of thinking that nobody was ready for.
Here's an example of sort of McPhee, what you're talking about controlling everything. Carl Alsner told a story about the combine, or whatever that draft weekend is, Mike, when you go in and you interview with several teams. Yeah, okay, so he said he interviewed with about 20 teams, and 19 of them he walked in the door. There's about 3 to 5 guys there. They were very casual and asked some nice casual questions. And then he thought, oh, okay, no big deal. It's the Capitals' turn. He walked in. So it was 20 men in suits, and it was about as stiff and difficult, and it overwhelmed him and made him really anxious. So it's sort of it goes along with the image that we know of McPhee.
It's very buttoned up. It's close to the vest. It's buttoned up. But man, if there's one thing I ever learned throughout my career, that's when somebody's in charge, that's their way to run things if they want to. I think my managerial style would be definitely different. And that's probably no surprise to you guys at all, but it's his right, but man, like I played for Lamoriello, and I'm telling you, it was like a different planet there. That guy had his fingers in everything. Like, I mean, he might even design the urinals when they built that building, the Prudential Center, like nice. He was approving everything. Like, dude, he used to sign every check. Lou Lamoriello. Not direct deposit. He would sign every check.
It's important.
So this is 2011, and I'm still getting a check, not direct deposit from the Devils.
Like at some point, though, don't you have to think like this is dumb? Like there's a certain level of detailedness. That's a word. I'm on fire today with these. That like, you. At some point, you have to be like, you know what, my time is suited better doing something else. And like when I hear his focus on the gold jersey, or his focus on these stupid shiny helmets, or he's in on production meetings or whatever, talking about he needs to know how are they going to stab the shark when his head, like No. Can we figure out why Lucas Elvenis is not good enough to play in the NHL? Like, I know, and like, I'm aware I'm doing the thing that I hate when people do. It's like, you need to practice more. Like, I know that I'm doing, but like, there are certain things that I do think take away from what they're trying to do, and some of it just did not make a lot of sense to me. And I still don't fully understand the working relationship that the Golden Knights have. Like, if they were to pull off a trade, is George McPhee ultimately still signing off on it or not? I still don't have that answer. And I don't know that we're going to get it.
And I don't know if there's a true hierarchy to signing off. I think it's a group decision. Like, I would be very surprised.
That's so utopian and ridiculous.
Dude, but I know, but I'm telling you, man, I cannot believe that there's many situations where Kelly McCrimmon would just go, we're doing this.
No.
And look the dudes above him in the eye.
George?
I don't think, but no, I think that I would bet you that Kelly McCrimmon's got the autonomy to make those decisions, but it's with strong advice.
So let's just take the last trade they made. They make the Eichel trade. If Kelly McCrimmon's confident, we're doing this is best for our team, and George McPhee walks in and says, no, it's not, who wins?
That's
my mind. Isn't
Kelly the general manager?
The hard part, here's the thing. The hard part in these situations is that you don't get that far down the road unless your front office believes in that. That's what I'm like. It's not a zero sum either or. He hates it. He doesn't. It's like, if you've gotten down the path far enough to have a deal on the table, you're game for it across the board. And I mean, I think there's, how could there not be influence from ownership on some of these?
Well, there
is. It's their toy. They can do what they want. Yeah. I think push comes to shove, though, the general manager is who makes the decision on these things. I mean, the president of hockey chooses their general manager to make these decisions, and ultimately that's the sword you fall on.
I still don't know if president of hockey operations is higher than GM, whatever. Another thing you did a lot
supervisor role.
Yeah, assistant to the regional manager. You did a lot of research on, historically, McPhee loves defensemen in the draft. Drafts a ton of them in the first round. They usually tend out to be good players. They don't turn out to usually be the best players at their position. Obviously, we know for the history of the organization, he's been hunting a number one defenseman. He was going after Erik Karlsson. He finally got himself Pietrangelo. They're not afraid to make the change. Like, what is kind of your feel, Jason, about how often they draft defensemen and what kind of success they've had? And is there a shift coming in the future? Like, what was your read on that?
Well, I mean, when you draft 38 defensemen in his career there at Washington, he clearly values the position. And I think what he was doing is taking chances on as many as he can until he found that right guy. Now, Mike, I don't, you can help me here. When teams take risks, is it more or less going to be a center, a forward, or is it going to be a defenseman? Because it seems like McPhee clearly wanted the Pietrangelo style of defenseman, and he kept saying quarterback. And I would assume Pietrangelo and Shea would be sort of that description. And he kept going and drafting these defensemen, and really he never really ended up finding that quarterback. He ended up with John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, guys like that, right?
Mike Green.
Mike Green, yeah, he was there for, a great career, right?
He was the premier offensive defenseman for a while. So I mean, he has success with that. But yes, continue on. Yeah.
So I guess what I think is that, like Ken said, he went out and he's been looking, right? They finally got Pietrangelo. They got their guy. I'm expecting that over the next few years, there's going to be a lot more defensemen taken so they can replace the Pietrangelo and Theodore when it comes time for that.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. When that's somebody's MO and you want to build around that position, it's necessary. And I'll take it a step further. I mean, McPhee was never shy to draft goaltenders early either. I mean, Varlamov, first round. Samsonov, I believe, was still under McPhee when he was drafted. If Samsonov wasn't, it's still kind of a legacy act from what they had done previously. They have taken goalies early, and they've taken defensemen, and they have developed them. And there's one thing that George McPhee did extremely well in Washington, and not just one, he did a lot, but one thing really was the development and utilizing their affiliate. Hershey was always good. They were always stocked with talent. And Henderson, we're hoping, will be like that too. There's a lag right now with the draft picks, but like Brandstrom, there's your early pick, another D. And I mean, right now it looks good that they moved him out because he has not blossomed, but I think it's smart. I think it's smart money with D, man. I really do. Cause like offensive players to me and forwards, boy, they can really live within the bubble of who they're on a line with or who they're playing with in junior hockey. You're 18 years old, you're 17 years old. And I played with a lot of guys who lit up the Western League, the OHL, the Quebec League, and then they got to pro and they didn't have their wingmates anymore. And oh boy. And I don't think defensemen can hide as well. I think if you've got a good pro scouting staff that truly believes in somebody, whether they're on a good team, bad team, you name it, I think it pays off to go after those type of flyer picks more often because you have a better sense of who they are, I believe, because it's more dependent on the person than teammates as a D. Like goalies cannot hide. D can hide a little bit. Forwards, go play hockey. So
do you think this continues, that they trade their draft picks so frequently that they are going to like Tampa became?
At some point you're running out of that stockpile from the original draft, and we're pretty much at that point now. So I don't have that list in front of me of all the draft picks that they accumulated leading up to.
Well, they're all gone. Yeah, they're all gone,
and those are gone now. And so I would have to think that they've got to cool it and start drafting some people, man, because Henderson's pretty bare right now.
I do think there's an argument to be made, though, that when you have Vegas, the tax situation that they have, the setup that they have, the weather that we have here, I think there is an argument to be made that we're going to always be able to build around free agents, and we're always going to be able to lure one of the best ones. So you can kind of stay in the mix always. And you do that by trading draft picks, by not forcing your way up, and then you got to hit on second and third rounders.
You do, but you also get players that are later in their career, and you can't build around that. So you're constantly in that cycle of trying to play games with, 28 to 34-year-old players to win you the cup, and you don't get your value out of those. You have to pay the big dollars. You have to load up the top end, and you're not going to have those same players that are on the entry level or a bridge deal that are giving you value for your money. It's a hard way to do it.
And look at LA. Yeah. LA is a very desirable place to live, and they won those cups basically on homegrown talent.
Tax there, though. I think there's a huge difference in the tax situation.
It's a nice place to play, but it's a huge cost of living. But that's kind of, it's a great place to live. I mean, LA didn't get put over the hump though until they got Jeff Carter.
True.
So you're 100% on point, Jason, but it's how you make those smart acquisitions on top of it. And growing from within is really the way. And you could even go back, like we just had Chris on, and Chris can tell you about the Red Wings years ago when they had their dynasty. Could the Red Wings go out and buy people? Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Did they? Oh, absolutely they did. But a lot of those players, the Lidstroms, the Yzermans, the McCartys, they came from within. That's what Yzerman's done too. Yeah, man. So Tampa Bay, same thing. So I think if you're Vegas, you can always try to run on the free agents, but you're going to need those 22 to 26-year-olds at some point here. You just have to, because this will not constantly be replenishable especially now with some of these guys in the long-term contracts. You're not going to be able to flush away Pietrangelo or Stone. You got them for good. They're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Probably
it'll be interesting because they've been willing to break the mold. Yeah, Eichel's locked in. He's not going anywhere.
5 years, yeah. Dude, what do you have for your Mike McKenna game of the year?
I got a good one here, Mike. Okay. So you were with the Dallas Stars, okay? And you were on the ice. You were playing when a former goal. Here's a trick question. Which former Golden Knight scored his first goal as a Dallas Star that day?
Ooh, former Golden Knight.
Ken, you should know this.
First goal as a Dallas Star.
It was 2018.
It would not have been Janmark. Janmark had played a previous year. Oh. So he went from being
as in he went from the Golden Knights to the Stars?
Yep.
Did he actually play for the Golden Knights? Is this like a Mark Mathot situation?
There you go.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You
Mark Mathot's a phenomenal human being. I forgot that he had been flipped around in that time. Yeah.
By the way, he would have been valuable, I think, in Vegas.
Who?
Mathot.
Oh, yeah. He was a warrior. His knee gave out on him, though. That's the only bad part. Like, dude, he was – oh, man.
Second round tell you pick, how tough he was. And the goalie, Ferguson.
Yeah, Dylan Ferguson. That's right. They came back and yeah, because our goalie coach in Texas was on the phone with Ferguson. Hey, great to meet you. We're gonna have so much fun. Blah blah blah. 2 minutes later, oh man, I hate to regret you. We just got to inform you. We just traded you.
That must stink.
Probably we were just getting to know you.
Time to happen rather than after development camp or after you buy all the jerseys or whatever. Poor Suzuki family.
Imagine getting traded that quickly.
Oh, I've told this story before, but I'm not sure you've heard it. I actually had a conversation with Nick Suzuki's dad the day that he got traded, and he asked me, like, do you think they're going to trade Nick? And I'm like, well, I think they're going to trade one of the four of the big four at some point. Like, I don't know which one it's going to be, and I'm not sure. He's like, well, I hope it's not Nick because his mother just bought 4 Golden Knights jerseys. I walked out of the rink that night, and he had gotten traded.
Dude, your parents should know better than this stuff at this point. I could tell you whole stories of things that family members and friends have done that are just embarrassing and just so mindlessly stupid. But like here's the best one. So like when you're playing in the league, you can leave guest passes for friends. You can buy tickets for people on the road if you want.
Ricky Bobby situation.
Yeah, exactly. Just like his dad, he leaves one ticket. You know, there's a cougar in the car there, but exactly. But people don't realize they cost money on the road. And if you're playing in like Toronto, those tickets are like $180 a pop. And it's like, we don't just get freebies left and right, you know? But anyway, like I left tickets and I had some of my friends in St. Louis for a game and I didn't play it, but I backed up and I come downstairs and it's like one of my best friends and everybody, like they're wearing blue shirts. And I was just like, I was like, Matt, can you just like, not be like put the fandom away for a day. Who are you coming here to see? Like, I'm not on that team, and you were clearly going to be downstairs after the game.
Ooh, yeah, me. Awkward.
Like, don't do that. Like, think about it, right? And I never had the heart to say it, but it just struck me as like, what are you thinking? You know, like, know who you're the guest of here. That's like, I don't know. It's like showing up to Christmas wearing like Halloween costume or something, you know, like, which ugly sweaters kind of are anyway. But
Mike, what's the actual policy? Like, are family members supposed to buy gear, or is that given from the team? Like, is there a discount?
Oh yeah, you usually get the at cost. Like, it's usually like a third off. It's not like at cost, but it's a little bit markup, I think. So yeah, like players get a discount. The families, they don't get it for free. The players don't get it for free. Like, you get your big swag bag when you get drafted, and that's cool. And then throughout the year, I mean, you kind of get what you want from the team just for like active wear at the rink. But it's not like they're just dishing out like zip ups and hoodies and all these freebies for you to give to mom and pop when you head home.
Floppies. They all have their flippy floppies, let me tell you.
Yeah. So I wish they did, but you know what? Every once in a while they do some nice stuff like that. On the father's trip or mother's trip, and they used to do those, they'd always give jerseys to parents. Or I never got that, but like I got traded to Philly, and or picked up by waivers by Philly, and they had two jerseys in my stall waiting for my daughters. And I know I've told that story before, but like that goes such a long way, man. Like those little touches like that It is really special.
Some of those, like not those ones. Obviously, you get to keep those ones, but like when your flippy floppies or the nice Adidas shoes that they have with the little sticker and it has your number on there, or like how much of that do you get to keep? Because it's always on sale at the thing. This last time they put it at Lifeguard Arena, and it was like 16,000 degrees out there. I almost died trying to look at all the skates. All I was trying to do was go and get a picture of Marshy's skates because they're hilarious. But
they're not big.
For 2 questions. First, one for you. How much of that crap did you keep? And then one for Jason, who I know is a bit of a germaphobe. Would you buy another man's flippy floppies?
No, not in a million years. No, those are one man only. Move on.
Like Wayne Gretzky has flippy floppies. You're not in for that. Like
who wants Wayne Gretzky's gross foot sweat? Give me a puck.
The greatest foot sweat of all time.
I'm out.
This is gross. I tried to keep a minimal amount. I do still have shoes from Dallas that I cut the grass in, and I have 2 pairs from Philly that have my number on them still because I finished my career there.
Little sticker.
Yeah, little heat press sticker on there. It makes you feel special.
Nice. It does.
But like what am I wearing right now for shorts? Oddly enough, I'm actually wearing Golden Knights athletic shorts. I have these from when I would practice occasionally. They at least gave me a pair of shorts and a shirt to toss in my bag, And so, I was able to keep those, which is kind of
thanks,
cool.
Chris Davidson Adams.
Yeah, Critter, thank you. But so I tried not to keep a lot of stuff. You know what I do regret not keeping all my hoodies and zip-ups. Those are the things that I think I would still wear as opposed to like T-shirts. I have a ton
Looks
of
like you never kept a jersey either.
Yeah, well, I had to pay for a lot of those. So I think I have a bin of it downstairs that at some point I'm going to go through and figure out what I want to do because it's.
Can I buy your flippy floppies?
I didn't have any custom ones of those, but I do. Man, like it's when you're playing, you're like, what am I going to do with all this junk? And then when you're done, you kind of like look back and it's like, man, even if it's in a bin, it's still really cool. So I kind of ran that line between whether I really wanted to keep this stuff or not. And I was like that with equipment. I kept 3 or 4 sets that really meant a lot to me. And I let the other ones go. I sold a lot of my equipment. I would sell it with the caveat that any amount of money I made, I donated right back to the animal shelter that we got our dog from. So I got the equipment for free. I didn't think that taking money was right on that. I thought it was the right thing to do was to put that money to something that could really use it. And that, a place that meant a lot to us where we got our dog. So, yeah.
You're much better person than me.
Let me answer this question. Brennan's asking what we're doing for All-Star Weekend. So we opted to not do a live show. COVID and all of it, it's not happening. Instead, what's happening, I'm going to All-Star whatever skills competition or whatever it is. Mike, you're planning on going to that as well.
Yep.
Afterwards, we're going to pick a place on the strip where we're going to hang out. I don't have the location yet, but it's going to be on the strip. So either you're there for it or you can come meet us afterwards. It'll either be right on the strip or within a few minutes. I don't want people, going nuts and driving and whatever. So it'll be somewhere pretty easy to get to and quickly. So it's just going to be something kind of fairly informal. We're just going to hang out afterwards. And that thing starts at like 4:30. It should be over by 7. So we should have plenty of time to go eat dinner.
We're going to have a great hang session. It's going to be great. Yeah.
I think it's going to be recipe talk. A lot of recipe talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of peanut butter and rice, apparently.
Yeah. Man, bottom line, I just want to see, I am super amped to see everybody. Like
except me.
I know I've said this. I'm just going to slap you. But just boom. I will gladly sign OG Wranglers here. But I really miss being on live TV.
Signing my card.
It's beautiful. But I more than anything, I really miss kind of the bond that I had made with fans in Vegas. And it's still really cool to me that one, we can do this show. So thanks to Jim Jimerson, to the Jimerson Law Firm. But also people still really interact a lot with me on Twitter and socials that were Vegas fans. You guys didn't stop following me, and that's cool. And it's appreciated. I'm very excited to see a lot of folks when I get out there.
And I can't tell you how many times people will say, we need more Mike, because there are times when, hey, listen, I'm a big critic, but sometimes on the broadcast, they need a little bit more truth. And I think fans recognize that you brought that last year and the year before.
I live the way I do with that. And I just wanted to have fun more than anything. And it's like, it's funny because it's such a different dynamic of your work compared to what I do now, writing and stuff. Like I would go in the rink in the morning and I would do my crowdsourcing. I'd talk to other people. I'd get ready. We'd have a rundown, which is a script. So I'd do the script and I'd have all my notes ready to go on TV, and you'd see my iPad, all my notes. And one of these shows, I should share all my notes from a game with you guys. It would
that'd be great
for people to see. And you would see my whole process, but I'd get done by maybe like 2:00 and I'd go take a nap just like a player. And I swear, man. And it was like, I still felt kind of like in that player mode, and I'd take a nap, I'd wake up, I'd feel great. And I'd head down to the rink and off we go. And so I do miss that routine. That was really cool. And I was happy I had the chance to do it.
Naps anymore?
Rarely. I'm not a fast writer. Occasionally I get 1 or 2 in a week.
Have you had the situation where you write something, you go to save it, and it disappears?
No, because I write everything on the cloud.
Ooh, the cloud.
Well, one day that cloud will rain or something will happen. That day will happen to you. Dude, it sucks. It just happened to me a couple of days ago. I threw something.
I was told that it will fail on me someday, but I'm like, I have triple redundancy.
Nope.
You can actually save these things onto your stuff and print them. But that was one of the things that I did do.
Go ahead.
Oh boy, we're both going. I would do all my notes. I stopped taking notes with a pen and paper, and I did all my notes purely digital, and they were all archived by the day within my drives. And so I can go back to any single day. I can search keywords through all my notes. And when I was doing the games, absolutely. And I would dig in like that. And it's a hell of a lot easier than trying to flip through a notebook. But I was also,
when you lose your story, which will inevitably happen, I don't know when, and I don't wish this upon you because it literally just happened to me. The second time you write it, it comes out way better.
Probably.
There's a lot of hate. Like, you could probably go back through and read the stories of what I've written in the last week and find out which one's a little bit angrier than what the rest of them were, because there's a little bit of hate that comes through it. But it's it definitely comes out better because you have a good feel. You go back, you write it again. You gotta retranscribe all the quotes. What a disaster that is.
What's funny?
I think we're good.
Okay, let's put us out. I want to put us out with a quick one here.
Oh boy, here we go.
You guys ready for this?
Yep.
All right. This one that's coming, it was the 1-year anniversary just recently.
Oh boy.
Is that your oldest daughter?
That's my oldest daughter, Kenlyn.
Oh, game winner.
That was just over a year ago. It was a shootout in a tournament. They went like 15 rounds. She had hardly scored a goal a year. She goes 5-hole, and they win the game. So
that's
pretty
awesome.
cool. I was in Vegas for that. I wasn't there, and I remember just crying endlessly. Like, just so happy for her.
Can you break down the goaltending here?
I was gonna say, yeah.
Well, it's clearly there's a large element of deception as she's coming in with the puck ahead of her. He doesn't get a good read on it, and goaltender's stick comes up off the ice. He's not able to snap his knees together in time. I hate to say it, he needed to track that puck and get a better read, but it was an absolute missile 5-hole. So
I feel like the stick's too heavy for it.
Stick's too big. The stick is too big. That's a common flaw for young goaltenders. They buy sticks that fit them standing, not when they go down, and parents just want to buy these big sticks. But
look at the celly in their own end. Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
Hate you hockey guys. It's awesome.
Beautiful. Good stuff. Thanks again to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring every episode. Get ready. We'll have more information on exactly where we're going to be very soon, maybe by next week. In theory, we should. Where are you on Wednesday? We do it with. We're going to have to figure out how we're doing next week's show. I don't know.
Yeah, we can do it live.
Figure out what we're doing for next week's show. I don't have an answer. It's not going to be us selling tickets. I'll tell you that. But we are going to figure out how we're going to do that, and we will figure that out and let people know. That's
predictions
it.
For tomorrow night. Predictions for tomorrow night.
Oh, predictions for tomorrow night. Golden Knights win 3-1. No, 3-2.
They lose 4-1 tomorrow, and they lose 6-3 the next game.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go. They lose 4-2 empty netter against Florida tomorrow. They come back hot and they finish off the trip with a win in Tampa.
No, you guys suck. They're winning every game. I've told you before this. They're dominating this road trip. It's going to continue happening. Good.